Hi everybody, welcome back to Origami Twist. My name's Jen, and in today's Daily December video, we are going to make a tissue paper pom-pom. How cool is that? Now the neatest thing about this project is that the little flower that we're about to make, that will be turned into the pom-pom, is the same flower that we're going to use for a completely different project tomorrow. So don't forget to just subscribe if you haven't already. It's totally free, and that will come up in your newsfeed tomorrow so you can make two projects with exactly the same technique. And it's completely different than this one, so definitely worth sticking around for. Okay, so this one's tissue paper, and we're going to use 3.5-inch squares of tissue paper, and you'll need 16 of them. Quick tip for your paper trimmer, if you're having trouble and it's snagging, is to grab a slice of cardstock and cut over the top so that the blades don't catch on the tissue paper. So when you're cutting them out, you can do multiple ones at a time, but that will prevent it from, well, it just prevents a headache, really. Okay, so once you've got 16 3.5-inch squares, we're going to want to start cutting them about 4 at a time. Now the reason I go with 4 in one go is because of if you have too many layers, they tend to not fold as nicely. So use as many or as few as work for whatever paper you have. You may need to do less depending on how thick your tissue paper is. So set some of them aside and go with 3 or 4 of them. And then we're going to take one corner, bring it up to the opposite corner, and crease. Now we're going to take this triangle and go along the long edge of the triangle and take one point and bring it over to the other point and crease, making a smaller triangle. And the same thing, go along the long side of the triangle and bring one point over to the other point. So once you've done that, you have a small triangle, but you'll find that it also tends to be fairly thick and it has some trouble folding. So you may need to hold it closed while you're doing your cutting. Now we're going to cut this into what I like to call an ice cream cone. So essentially we're going to go down about 1/3 of a way down this short side here. Now the short side that I'm talking about is on that big fold. So where all the layers are actually folded in one fold. That's actually really important, because if you cut it the other way, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of little ice cream cones or heart shapes, and it won't look anything like a flower when you're done. So take that nice folded side where all the layers are folded together and start there about 1/3 of the way down from the other short side. So the long side's on your left, short side with the fold is on the right. And then we're going to just cut around and make an ice cream cone. So we're going almost halfway down this big long side when we get to the other side. There you go. And you'll want to make sure you're actually cutting that deep enough, otherwise your flower petals won't have individual petals. It'll look more like just a scallop. But you'll see what I mean in a moment once we open it up. So there we go. We're going to open it up. And as I said, make sure you're going down deep enough so that those cuts get put into your paper. You can always fold it up and cut it again if you need to. Okay, so we make a total of 16 of these flower petals, and then we will come back to assemble them. There we go, we're surrounded by flower petals. Now we need to poke a hole in the middle of the flower, and we're going to do that by layering your individual flower petals, one on top of the other, slightly rotating the petals so that as you fill it up, it creates a circle instead of a flower. And if you're using paper with a pattern on it, you want all the patterns to be going the same direction, and 8 of them facing up and 8 of them facing down. Now if you're doing just a flower, you can go with just 8 of them. And if you're doing an entire sphere or ball like this, you'll want all 16. And a quick tip for handling tissue paper is to either put hand cream or on your hands ahead of time and let it dry, or wash your hands and dry them, and that slight bit of water will allow your fingers to grip the tissue paper better. You don't want them to be wet, but just, you know that feeling right after you've washed your hands and dried them, they're still a tiny bit wet. That will help with the process. And here we go, make 2 stacks of 8 flowers. Okay, now I'm leaving them in 2 stacks at the moment because we need to poke a hole in the center, and your hole punch will most likely not go through all of the layers. So you decide how big you want to make it, how big the stack should be. There you go. You may want to take a clothespin or a paper clip and actually clip all of the layers together. It will aid in stringing all of your flowers together, or just be very careful to keep them all together. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you have to thread through each individual one, but if you're making a lot of these, you'll find a technique anyway. Okay, so we've got holes through both stacks, and you can't see it, but they do go through both, just like with this one. And now you need a length of ribbon about 1 foot long, and thread them together going down through, again keeping pattern sign up and pattern sign down on the 2 stacks like a sandwich, and then go straight down through and then straight back up through the opposite hole. So it's straight down through one hole and straight back up through the opposite hole. And that final piece will look like this. Now you double knot it and just do that snugly, so tight but not tight enough to rip the paper. And then we're going to start making that flower shape or ball shape, depending on how many sheets you're using. So we'll start with that top one and bring it up like a cone and give it a good pinch. And then take the next sheet, so you're doing individual sheets here, take the next sheet, rotate your hands around a little bit because it won't look so manufactured that way. It'll be more organic and look more like a real flower or a real pom-pom, like a real flower or a pom-pom. And the next one up and so on, making sure that you're pinching at the bottom to allow the full amount to come up and give it a good crimp. And when you finish the first 8, and if you're using double-sided, you'll see that it comes so that the other color is showing. You flip the paper over, and again, starting at one side, fluff up the whole thing. And as you get towards the middle, you will probably not need to crimp it as much, though you could go in and give it a little sideways crimp to give it a bit more texture, but it's totally up to you, depends on what look you want. But there you go, one tissue paper pom-pom, perfect for package toppers or the Christmas tree, or both. I hope you enjoy that and give it a try. And if you like the shape of that flower, come back tomorrow and we'll do something else with it. Completely different project. All right, have a good one, guys. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for Daily December. Have a good one. Bye-bye.